if you want a fast golf swing, you gotta have an arm independent release. You do not wanna fall victim to this mantra that you need to keep turning your body through the hitting area. You need your body to come to a slowdown point, and you need your arms and your wrists to work independently. And where your shoulders are pointed when the release starts can radically influence your path and your face to path. So let's talk a lot about what our objective is today, because I want to give you a big understanding of what we're going to be doing here and how we're going to be doing it, okay? The first thing I want you to understand is that when it comes to the world of kinematics, okay, we know that kinematic sequence is the acceleration and the deceleration of the body in a very specific order. It starts at the hips, it moves its way up through the thorax and out through the left arm. Now, if you remember what we worked on in last week's video, we talked about the importance of which side of the ball the center of mass is on is the side of the body that we want to use as far as the muscle groups are concerned. Now, when it comes to your path and your face control, I want you to remember that the most important thing that you can learn, or the most important skill set that you can learn today, is that we want the lead side of your body, your left shoulder, your left arm, and your left wrist, controlling the path and the face to path. Now, this doesn't mean that over the next 2 weeks you're just learning a lead side dominant sport, okay? That's not the case here at all. Your lead side is in a position where it's in front of the club head. And when it's in front of the club head, it can pull. And pulling moves in one direction and one direction only. It moves towards center. Where your right side is considered your trouble side of the body. It's in a position where it sits behind the club, and it can push the club and affect the many different variables that ultimately affect your shot shape. It can affect the rate of closure in the club face, it can affect the loft, it can affect the path, and all of those things that go into what these devices spit out here that make it hard for you to be able to control your ball in the golf course. We're gonna learn how to put control and speed in the right spot today. And then next week what we're gonna do is we're gonna help add the stability and add even more speed to the mix, because I want you to be able to have the freedom to use the right side of your body, which most of you are more dominant from. So how we're gonna do this though, is we're gonna set this drill up with some reference points here. And the way I've got it set up now is I have a golf ball that's down on the ground here that's going to be in line with my left ear. This is the ball that I would be hitting. Then I have a golf ball that's directly in front of it, and I have a golf ball that's a club head width inside of it and a club head width outside of it. Now, in the golf swing, how our golf club is going to be working through there, whether it's on an in to out path that's way too much or an out to in path, is that we're always going to be swinging the club on an arc, on an inclined plane as well. And so in that arc, if you get the club face working too much out to the right, too much to the left, that's what's going to ultimately influence the curvature in which you're going to see the golf ball fly through the air. But under no circumstance do you ever take a golf club and come down with a square face and keep everything working directly down the target line without the club face rotating. It's not going to lead to good results. In fact, that's going to create gear effect and make the golf ball fly way off towards right field. So what we have to do is we have to understand how to get the path dialed in perfectly. Now, when we're doing this, the first thing that I want you to understand is that tension is going to be your worst enemy. When you go through today's drill, you're not going to have any tension in your left shoulder, your left arm, or your left wrist. That's a non-negotiable. And when we go through this drill, I'm going to ask that you actually start to feel exaggerations when you start to work towards a draw bias and to a fade bias. And the reason for that is because we're not having the trail arm on the golf club to help add the drag back to the mix here and help rebalance the equation. So as we start to get into next week's video, where I start to teach your right shoulder, your right arm, and right wrist what it should be doing, what you're going to feel is that, yeah, your hand and arm path may be working a little bit too much out towards right field. Your hand and arm path might be working a little bit too much off to left field. The importance for you, though, is to understand that you're now being empowered to be able to control the path and the timing of the release in the golf swing. How the release starts in the golf swing for an arm-independent release, which is the fastest and most efficient way to swing the golf club, is when the body stops its rotation. Now, if the body stops its rotation and my shoulders are closed, then my arm is simply going to be working more out towards right field. And vice versa, if my body is rotating and it turns my shoulders open, then my hand and arm path is going to be working more towards left field. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work on trying to find a feel for all three of these at first. Why? Well, because I want to empower you as a golfer. I want you to feel what it's like to be able to move with the path being shifted by getting some control of where your shoulders are pointed. Now, the rules of engagement are this. I want you to take your setup, and I want you to take your right arm, and I want you to put it across your chest. And you're going to imagine that you're holding a golf club with your normal grip, and you're just going to start getting your left arm to swing back and forth freely which would be an arm independent movement. This is a very tension-free sort of movement. There's no tension. You can see that my left arm has got a little break in it. I'm not focusing in on the detail stuff. I'm just trying to get the tension out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work and turn my body back, but I'm going to stop my body and have my shoulders closed and feel like my hand is working out towards that golf ball that's to the right of center line. So how it's going to look is I'm going to turn my body back and I'm going to feel my arm work out towards right field. A good way to think of this is that when you start the release is think about the outside portion of your shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist pointed in that direction as your arm starts to swing past your body. So here's how this is going to work, okay? We're going to go ahead and take our setup. Okay, we're going to cross our right arm, cross our chest. My stance is a little bit wider because we're working on a driver swing. We're going to turn our body back so our left hand should be in line with our chest. And we're going to start to rotate our hips open. And we're going to get our arm to start to release out to that third ball. So my shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist need to be pointed in that direction. Then we're going to go ahead and do a rep now where we turn our body. Now my shoulder, my elbow, and my wrist are pointed straight down the target line. Again, these are visuals. Then we're going to do a rep where the outside portion of my shoulder is pointed to the left, my elbow is pointed to the left, and my wrists are pointed to the left. And we're just going to be doing this back and forth for a second. And you want to work from the exact same position at 9 o'clock here. So your chest, your shoulder should have turned, and your hand should be in the center of your sternum here. So you're going to go ahead and shift, stop. So I'm getting my shoulders square, getting my shoulders open. Okay, turning back, my shoulders should be closed, working on a draw, straight ball, fade. Going back through the reps again. Okay, so I'm going to turn, shift, shoulders should be closed, shoulders pointed out towards right field, elbows pointed out towards right field. Shoulders are square. Shoulders are open. So little small swings going through each one. And take your time, okay? This is not just to do a movement that all of a sudden is going to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. This is a movement to create awareness of. You should be aware of where your shoulders are pointed when your arm gets to each one of these balls. You should be aware that your system of movements is helping you get it there, okay? Now, in order for you to get your arm to work out towards right field, a lot of you are going to have to feel like you're pulling your arm to get to that position because it's going to get away from your shoulders a little bit quicker. For those of you that are getting to the fade bias, you're going to feel like your arm has to be a lot more patient so it turns along with your chest. That's the key here, is understand what's influencing the hand and arm path. Now, as the second part of this step, what we want to do is now we want to let our arm swing through to a 3 o'clock position. Now when you do this, we still want to keep the system moving, and it's going to help kind of rebalance the equation here. So if my left arm is swinging out towards right field and I'm allowing my body to turn a little bit, as I would be if I were pivoting up onto my toe, then my arm is going to end up in this 3 o'clock position. It's going to start to look like it's on a gradual arc. So you need to allow your body to kind of release and follow the arm a little bit to the 3 o'clock position. I wouldn't suggest that you ever get open more than 15 to 20 degrees with your chest when it's all said and done. So we're going to do the same thing here though. We're going to do about 20 sets of 3 where we're going to work on going through the ladder here. So we're going to be doing draw, straight ball, fade. Okay? So take your setup, ball position off of your left ear, turn back to 9 o'clock. There's my draw. There's my straight ball. There's my fade. Okay, keep doing this. Draw, straight ball, where my shoulder is pointed and where my elbow are pointed as it makes its way through is critical for your path. Draw, straight ball, fade. Draw, straight ball, fade. Keep doing that. Keep seeing it and hearing it in your brain. Work that out. You have to be really disciplined here. Think about where this is pointed when the arm starts to pass in to these balls in front of you. Think about where your elbow is pointed. And now what we have to do is we have to add in the final component. All right. So here is the part of the program where a lot of you are going to struggle. And the reason why you're going to struggle is because we're going to be adding the golf club back in the mix, and a lot of you don't trust the golf club to do a lot of the work for you. You're going to try to squeeze the golf club with your grip, you're going to try to manhandle it, you're going to try to manipulate it. You don't want to do that. By definition, the word release means to let go. Now, I don't live in this world where I know that a lot of you aren't going to be able to play with tension-free sort of release patterns. Okay, I live in a world where I know exactly how you're going to try to do things, but we're going to try to reduce the tension level down to a very, very uncomfortable level. But in that same context, what we need to do is we need to learn a skill set here that's going to allow the club head to swing from a toe up to toe up position on both sides of the ball. And what I want you to do is I want you to grab your driver and I want you to choke down on it a little bit. And I want you just to go ahead and start to swing the club back and forth and get the club head to travel a long ways. But notice how I'm not moving my arm a whole long ways here. And I want you to be able to start looking at the golf club on both sides to make sure that it is toe up and it is toe up. If you see that it's not, slow down and fix it and make sure it's in the right spot. You don't want to see the club radically toe left, and you don't want to see the club way out towards right field. Get the club to swing so it's toe up to toe up. And if you can do that, and you can reduce the tension levels down to where you can just hold the club lightly in the back 3 fingers, and the club is just brushing the grass on the way through, you've now got a fighting chance to be able to do this second step at a very high quality. Now, that movement that I just showed you looked pretty sloppy. Why? Well, because it was kind of sloppy. My wrists were oversetting on both sides of it. I had the club just swinging it all over the place. But what can I do to add stability to this movement? Think about that for a second. Well, I can simply take my arm and I can start keeping it moving through the hitting area. And at the end of my arm is that wrist function that's taking place. And if you think about what we're going to be doing with our shoulders, is we're going to be ultimately affecting the path by getting our shoulder pointed in the direction in which the shot we're trying to hit here. So how we're going to practice this now is we're going to start to put the whole thing together by thinking about what we did last week and really keeping the tension levels down in our wrist and trusting the fact that the club can swing from a toe up to toe up position. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to move this line out of here because I'm going to keep the reference points down, and you can actually just take and have a tee on the ground with no balls on it like this. Have a tee out towards right field, down your center line, and off to the left. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our normal grip on the club and we're going to choke down on it. Okay, and I'm going to take my right hand and put it across my shoulder. Okay, and I'm going to do a series of reps where I shift my center of mass behind the ball, I turn, center of mass comes back in front of the ball, so my head should come back to its normal spot. My shoulder is going to be pointed out towards right field. As my arm is starting to release, that's my draw swing. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Center of mass behind, straight ball. Center of mass behind, get it in front. Feel the arm swinging off towards left field. Get this lead side shoulder here, where it's pointed and where your elbow are pointed are going to help you feel the correct path. And you can start to speed it up as you go through the reps. I want you to be able to do all 3 of these inside of your system of movements. And you should be maintaining posture. Okay, you should hear that little whoosh sound. And I would do them 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I would do them in sets of 5 and then reset. Because even me, who's taught this game for a while, and I know that I can keep my tension levels down, I'm starting to feel some wrist fatigue here. Take a 30-second or a 1-minute break, come back in and do your next set of 5. You want to be very proficient with moving through load, unload, and letting your arm release and letting the club start to go in the direction in which you have your shoulders pointed. I want you to get really good at that between now and the next video. And if you can do that proficiently, and you can follow that protocol that I just gave you, so 20 of the first set or of step number 1, 20 of set number 2, and then you finish off your program by doing 20 more of the most high quality sets of 5 when you're going through the 3 here, then now you have yourself a program that now got you the hard work with some payoff at the end of it. You don't need a new driver, you don't need a flight scope in order to be able to do this. Back check this stuff on camera, make sure that you're seeing exactly what I'm showing you on camera. Okay, keep the tension levels down, and then next week what we're gonna do is we're gonna dial in some speed and some control to this, and then in the final video, I'm gonna show you how to start to optimize and really what to look out for on camera to help bring it all together. Good luck. Post in the comments below if you have any questions here. Let's get out there, let's work hard. We'll see you guys in the next video.